Tánaiste Leo Varadkar and Sinn Féin's finance spokesperson Pearse Doherty clashed in a heated debate in the Dáil today whilst discussing the cost of living crisis. It kicked off with Doherty accusing Varadkar of being out of touch on the matter, and the exchange soon descended into a bitter row that was characterised by quite personal attacks. Let's take a look.
You hosted a private dinner last night to celebrate Fine Gael's decade in power. The ESRI was finalising their report on energy poverty in this state.
There was no public money involved. You host dinners in America. You charge people $1,000 a plate to attend, and your party leader flies first class to get there. That's what you do in the middle of a cost of living crisis. So that's a cheap shot, particularly coming from a hypocritical party like yours.
I really thought somebody in which the DPP is currently assessing whether they'll prosecute you under the Corruption Act, maybe you would be a bit more humble in relation to your response.
It's particularly strange coming from you, because you were prosecuted. You abused, mistreated a Garda Síochána. For that you were prosecuted. You were found guilty. Yes, you got away without a conviction because of your age at the time. Now, the courts will decide, and they decided on you. They decided on you. You were prosecuted. You were taken to court.
Now, for more on this story and the continuing energy crisis, I'm joined in studio by the owner of Michael's Restaurant, Gael Smith, Fianna Fáil Senator Lorraine Clifford-Lee, former CEO of Barnardos, Fergus Finlay, editor of Irish Country Living magazine, Amy McKeever, and Irish Examiner political correspondent Paul Hosford. And via Skype this evening, People Before Profit, TD Paul Murphy. You're all very welcome to the programme. Paul, I'm going to start with you because a lot of people, I suppose, won't really know what it was that Leo Varadkar was referring to. Pearse Doherty has said, look, it's been covered widely in the media in the past, but you might just remind people what he was talking about.
Yeah, this was a case back in 1998 when Pearse Doherty was about 20 or 21 years of age. He was involved in what was described as a public order incident at a taxi rank. It was dealt with under the Probation Act. He was convicted. He was found guilty but not convicted because of Leo Varadkar touched on it, because of his age and because of his previous good record. It has been dealt with before. It has been kind of dragged up every now and then, and it's something that does come up occasionally in relation to Pearse Doherty. It was strange to hear it brought up in the context of today's discussion. It's strange to hear it brought up in leaders' questions in the Dáil chamber. It was a fairly not uncharacteristically, but a very touchy and very personalised debate during leaders' questions.
And I was reading one of the other political correspondents today, their analysis, and they said it was the most personalised and bitter exchange between government and opposition that they had seen in the Dáil chamber for years. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of rack your brains at times like this, and you go back over and you think, Micheál Martin and Mary Lou McDonald get into tetchy exchanges during leaders' questions almost on a weekly basis at this point. But normally they're around the fringes. They're never as personalised as this. They're never about as personal an incident as this.
I have to say, I thought today's row was disgraceful. I thought it was absolutely appalling. And it was also completely and absolutely counterproductive. Those kind of personal attacks do not work. You might think they do, you might get a moment of satisfaction out of them. But I'm old enough to remember, God help me, Gareth Fitzgerald launching a very strong personal attack on Charles Haughey when he referred to his flawed pedigree and so on. It copper-fastened Haughey's hold on his own party. I'm old enough to remember Padraig Flynn launching a really strong personal attack on Mary Robinson on radio. It won the presidential election for Mary Robinson. So those things blow up in your own face when you do them. And to be fair,
whose face does it blow up in that regard? Was it Leo Varadkar or Pearse Doherty that took the wrong tack?
Doherty started it. And if Varadkar had kept his dignity, he'd have won. But Doherty won because he let the Tánaiste let Pearse Doherty get under his skin. And he looked bad-tempered, brittle, and unnecessarily hostile. He could have gone back to dealing with the issues that they were supposed to be there. He could have, described Doherty's attack as just unworthy and moved on, because it was unworthy. It was completely unworthy in the context. Very, very strong politics needs to be about politics. When it's about people and persons, that kind of personality stuff, it's vicious and it's totally counterproductive. Nobody, I mean, you know, it was like two tribes butting heads today. And no doubt the tribes will say, go on, yeah, boy, yeah. When, you know, when they see
the Fine Gael supporters are delighted with Leo Varadkar's attacks, and the Sinn Féin supporters are delighted. But those people in the middle who perhaps could be attracted either way, they're lost, are they?
Both of those parties are trying to build a wider base. Both of them lost ground in trying to build a wider base by that kind of tactic. All
right, and just to be clear, we did ask Fine Gael and Sinn Féin to come on the programme this evening, but neither of them were available. Pearse Doherty did send in a statement to say that it was, 3 decades ago he was involved in a very minor breach of the peace in Dublin city centre. It was dealt with under the Probation Act, as you said, Paul, and it was covered in the media on numerous occasions. He said that the Tánaiste had to grasp for this to cover his decade-long failure in government. He said that was very telling. Lorraine, is that what this was? Was it a cover-up? Was it a distraction? Because they were discussing, a quite serious ESRI report today. Is that what this was about for the government?
Well, I was personally very dismayed when I saw what happened earlier on today. It just reduced the Dáil to a Punch and Judy show. It's something that we see happen in Westminster all the time, but we don't expect it, or we don't like it here in this country. I think neither man covered themselves in glory today, and I thought it was a particularly low point when a deceased individual was referred to and was called a vagabond, actually, by the Tánaiste. I thought there was no need for that. It was a really low blow, to be honest. People are struggling out there. They don't want to look at this carry on. And Fergus was dead on when he said they're just appealing to their own bases. And both parties have clips taken from that confrontation, and they're pushing it out on social media. And we know how the social media algorithms work. It's like the 90 seconds of rage get more traction online. And it's a really, really low point that we have fallen to in politics when you have two tribes, as Fergus described them there, just going at it and forgetting about people in the middle. They're only trying to appeal to their own base. And I really hope we don't see more of this in the future. I think both of them should maybe reflect on their behaviour.
Paul Murphy, I take it you would agree, because today they were meant to be discussing this ESRI report, weren't they?
Yeah, I think it was a deliberate distraction by Varadkar from the point that 1 in 3 people in the country are now experiencing energy poverty. And the reality that the government's message is to say, well, you have to wait until the budget, then you might have to wait till next year for the measures to be applied, when the reality is people simply cannot wait. They're facing thousands of euros of increase in prices in terms of petrol and diesel, in terms of electricity, in terms of heating costs, in terms of grocery bills, and people cannot wait.